My heart's breaking because my 11-year-old cat Panda is declining and my parents refuse to acknowledge his struggles. He's our cat now, they say, shrugging off my pleas for a diet. The last straw, they lied about his health and getting him to the vet. Am I overreacting or is my family letting my soul pet suffer? Throwaway account as my mother follows me on Reddit. I apologize if this post is lengthy or chaotic or if I include unnecessary information. I am not the best at concise or effective storytelling. I tend to ramble, but I will try my best to make it readable. I am a 22-year-old female in my senior year of college, and I will be graduating in about a month. I had planned to move out of the campus dormitory and back in with my parents, who are 55 years old and 54 years old after completing my degree, just temporarily until I can get everything sorted post-graduation. However, those plans now seem quite impossible due to a situation involving my cat. My cat's name is Panda, and I adopted him approximately 11 years ago while still living with my parents. He is the sweetest cat in the world. When he was a kitten, he was rather shy and would spend all of his time near me. However, he has become more sociable since overcoming his moody teenager years and is now the friendliest cat ever. I cherish him deeply. People often talk about soul pets, and Panda is undoubtedly my soul pet. I was unable to take Panda with me when I moved out of my family home, as all of my living arrangements during college have not been suitable for housing a cat. Furthermore, despite having come out of his shell socially, Panda is quite timid regarding new experiences and would become overwhelmed if I tried to relocate him. Therefore, Panda has remained with my parents, and I have been able to see him whenever I visit. It is just my mother and father at home as I have no siblings, and for a while there were two other cats which we can refer to as Sunny and Birch. Sunny passed away a couple of years ago. He was my mother's sole cat as they were genuinely inseparable and was considered my parents' favorite in the household, much like a golden child but in feline form. After Sunny's death, my parents attached themselves to Panda and began treating him like they did with Sunny. I am happy that Panda is receiving so much attention and love, and Birch is as well. Do not worry, she is just socially awkward and thus not the primary target for my parents' endless affection. This change in the household dynamics has transformed Panda into our family cat rather than just my pet. It did not seem like an issue at first, and I never thought it would be, but we will return to this point. Now on to the core of the issue. Panda is, in the kindest way possible, quite large. He weighs around 17 pounds, and as a domestic shorthair, he is not considered a larger breed cat. This weight is categorized as overweight, bordering on obesity, and he has been this way for a while. I believe he could only jump onto countertops during the first few years of his life, and now he struggles with basic grooming because of his size. When I lived with my parents, I recognized that this was problematic and vaguely suggested placing him on a diet. I also attempted to harness train him in high school so that he would get more exercise, which worked for a time and allowed us to go on a few walks outdoors. But my father, acting foolishly by running towards us and shouting despite my request that he stay inside because of Panda's timid nature, scared Panda so severely that he refused to go outside again. However, I did not conduct any thorough research or invest effort into finding solutions. Approximately 60% of cats in the United States are overweight, and at that time, I simply did not realize the severity of the issue because it seemed so commonplace and normal. After moving out, securing jobs, and starting college, I became more informed about the health risks associated with having a severely overweight cat. I worked for a few years at various pet stores, one of which required pet nutrition training through online classes, and I learned a great deal about the poor quality of the food Panda was eating and the potential health problems stemming from his weight. I started to genuinely fear that, if nothing changed, Panda was at risk of suffering and possibly passing away years before his time. I expressed this concern to my parents a few years ago and made an effort to do so respectfully. One important lesson I learned from working in pet care is that every pet parent loves their animals unconditionally, and suggestions about altering their care methods must be handled delicately. Otherwise, a pet parent may feel like you're implying they are harming their pet with their current practices, leading to offense and resistance to new ideas. Thus, I began with gentle suggestions, mentioning that I had learned about some pet food brands that might help Panda lose weight. However, from the very beginning, these suggestions were dismissed. I made an effort to bring it up kindly whenever I visited home to gently push the issue, but they quickly shut down the conversation and soon became annoyed with my attempts, mostly my dad. He is the type of person who has very specific ways of doing things and becomes quite upset if any changes are suggested. A few years ago, he informed me that I had to request to visit home 3 days in advance to allow him to mentally prepare, or else he would become passive-aggressive and sulky and would refuse to speak to me. He has improved with this now, but I thought it illustrated my point. I suspected their resistance to the idea stemmed from my suggestions regarding changes in his routine, as he is the one who feeds the cats and handles grocery shopping. Since I worked at a pet store and had employee discounts, I offered to purchase the food for him and bring it home, so he would only need to pull out a different bag at feeding time. He dismissed this idea as well, then stated he would visit the store himself to get it. When he arrived, I took him to the aisle where the cat food was located, and he displayed annoyance towards me and my coworkers. He purchased that bag of food but only attempted to feed it to the cats a few times before claiming they did not like it and reverting to the Walmart brand. I strive to explain that Walmart foods are packed with artificial flavors and fillers, and that the cats, having only eaten the Walmart food, would not appreciate the better food immediately due to its very different taste and higher nutrient density, which means they cannot eat as much of it. Their cat brains have adapted to the idea that they need to consume a large quantity because of how much Walmart food it takes to satisfy their hunger. He was completely against the concept, and it became a topic that could ruin an evening if I brought it up. Despite this, I continued to mention it occasionally, willing to endure the arguments for the sake of helping my cat. I would sometimes bring over quality cat food and suggest they try feeding a small amount, but to no avail, it remained untouched in the cupboards. Eventually, I grew tired of gently pushing and became more assertive, explaining that Panda would not live as long as he should if he did not go on a diet and detailing the potential health issues he might develop, such as joint pain, heart problems, kidney issues, organ failure, mobility challenges, paralysis, and an overall shortened lifespan. This only upset them further, leaving me frustrated because I loved Panda tremendously and felt that his care was out of my reach. He was on a path towards suffering, and the individuals who could help him were dismissing my entreaties. I felt powerless. This situation persisted for the past few years, me trying occasionally to broach the topic, them becoming increasingly irritated with any suggestions, and their common response being, "Okay, we understand. We will change his diet soon, please stop bringing it up." Remember, I only visit home a few times a month and I would only briefly mention it during those visits, but regardless, they did not modify his diet. Everything changed a few weeks ago. I had to come into town and asked if I could drop by while I was in the area for an unplanned visit. I was told that this was acceptable, so I went to the house. While there, I discovered two significant things. One, Panda was no longer walking properly. Two, my mother had skin cancer, did not inform me about it, underwent treatment biopsies, and is now cancer-free. I learned these two facts in that order, so the focus shifted accordingly. First, concerning Panda, he was still mobile but seemed to be using his back legs incorrectly and was applying weight to his heels instead of his paws, causing his back legs to bow. He appeared unstable while walking, and his legs seemed to buckle underneath him at times. This was incredibly concerning, leading me to think he might be on the verge of paralysis due to nerve damage, which could indicate kidney disease, diabetes, or other issues. When I pointed this out and mentioned my concern, my father casually remarked that Panda had been walking like that for a little while and that it was nothing to worry about. I pressed that it was a significant problem, and after some initial denial, they conceded. Internally, I was deeply upset because I had feared this could happen for years, but I maintained my calm demeanor and attempted to express my understanding as I once again pushed for the dietary changes. After a brief suggestion to simply implement the diet when I return home after college, which, by the way, is outrageous given that my cat is not walking correctly and you want to wait to address it, they ultimately agreed and seemed to take my concerns seriously. I was told that, in fact, Panda had been quite ill the week prior, and my father was considering taking him to the veterinarian, but they decided to wait one day to see if he improved. Apparently he did, so they did not take him. They had not mentioned this to me and clearly would not have had I not dropped by unannounced and uncovered Panda's condition. Then the cancer situation surfaced. I discovered this when I noticed the bandages on my mother's face and body, and she sheepishly explained. I was shocked, and though I concealed it, I felt a bit hurt that she had kept this from me. She claimed that she did it to prevent me from worrying because I was already very stressed about my college senior project, an understandable reason, I suppose, but I still felt slightly hurt. I was mostly ashamed of myself for being so self-absorbed that she felt she could not share such vital information with me. I did my best not to dwell on my feelings and focused on having a discussion about her health. I asked her to share updates with me in the future as I care about her well-being. She informed me that the cancer was a non-dangerous kind, that the treatment was manageable, and that she is now fully recovered. I certainly have more thoughts about that situation, but it is not the main topic at hand, so I mention it here primarily to illustrate that she is comfortable withholding significant information from me if it means avoiding difficult conversations. I mean, she has no binding obligation to disclose her health matters to me, and I understand that. Still, I hope you grasp my point. Once the cancer situation arose, it dominated the conversation, and we did not discuss Panda much more that night aside from getting my parents to agree to a diet for him, keep me updated on his health, have a family friend with extensive animal knowledge visit and assess him, and take him to the veterinarian as soon as possible. The day following that visit, I found a variety of products, multiple types of kibble for variety and cat CBD oil for any potential joint pain, and sent those links to my mother. I also calculated the cat's weights and the feeding amounts for each food needed to put them on a diet, which I sent over as well. They commenced the diet the following day and informed me that it was going well, that the family friend's visit had been successful, and that Panda seemed to be walking better. With everything else happening in my life causing me stress, I took this news at face value and felt very relieved. Now we arrive at the present situation. I apologize for the length of my rambling and background. I'm not good at discerning which details are necessary for someone to fully grasp the context. I have been wrestling with the idea of returning home after college for some time, as living with my family is notoriously tumultuous, quickly leading to agitation among one another. Our tempers are short, and our relationships can deteriorate significantly when we are under the same roof. Even during vacations, when we are required to be in close proximity to each other for extended periods, one person usually ends up yelling. I moved out of my parents' house twice to escape the arguments. Countless factors could contribute to this, and I recognize I am likely responsible for some of it as well. Ultimately, though, moving back in with them might jeopardize the relationships we have built since I left. In the 5 years since I moved out, we have become much closer, enjoying the freedom to decide when we see each other and alleviating the stress of being in constant proximity. I call my parents several times a week and we talk and joke for hours. I have never felt closer to them. They are like my best friends and I love them deeply. Given all this, I was already anxious about the idea of moving back in, but when I visited them yesterday, once again spontaneously everything seemed to unravel. When I saw Panda yesterday, he was dragging his legs worse than before. He has also lost weight around his back legs and he seems significantly worse than he did a few weeks ago. I was truly upset. They had informed me that he was getting better, yet there he was, stumbling worse than before. I will admit that I lost my composure and became very angry with them. I engaged in a heated argument with my mother, expressing my distress about her lying to me concerning his legs improving. She insisted that he genuinely had improved and had not been stumbling until just that moment, which I did not believe for a second. Are you telling me he was fine and then suddenly began using his legs incorrectly the moment I arrived? In expressing my concern for Panda, I referred to him as my cat during this argument, to which she corrected me saying he was our cat. Which brings me back to that point, implying that she did not think I should have a say regarding his health because he now belongs to the entire family now that her previous favorite cat has passed, I suppose. This felt like such an odd correction, and I cannot recall if I stated this at the time. But if he is your cat too, should you not care for him as much as? She continued to assert that I was overreacting, claiming that my distress is why they refrain from sharing information with me. I feel that their unwillingness to share vital information is the root cause of my upset. I inquired whether they had taken him to the veterinarian, as they had promised, and they confessed that they had not. They explained that when our family friend visited to check on Panda, he had become so frightened that he was running around and panting, nearly having a heart attack, and therefore they wanted to give him time to settle down before taking him to the veterinarian. It has been 2 weeks since that visit. Not only did they lie to me about him improving, but they also failed to uphold their promise regarding the vet, and they were dishonest about how the appointment with the family friend went. I was furious, so I retreated to another room to sit on the floor and try to calm down. My mother entered a few minutes later and began rambling again about how Panda really had gotten better and was not stumbling until just then, and how they did not take him to the vet because he was frightened by the family friend's visit, aiming to give him a few days to calm down again. This has been 2 weeks. Can't you understand that? She asked. Why can't you just say that you understand why we did not take him to the veterinarian? There were no apologies, only requests for my forgiveness regarding their deliberate inaction to avoid feeling guilty. In that moment, I completely lost it. I began yelling and slammed the doors as I tried to leave, cursing as I grabbed my keys and departed as quickly as I could. I realized in that instant that returning home after college was no longer an option. I would need to find somewhere else to stay within less than a month. Attempting to maintain a normal relationship would have been challenging enough, but now I am so incredibly outraged and repulsed by their behavior and selfishness. I know I cannot voice my feelings. I understand they do not listen to me or do not care. I cannot move back home and harbor such tremendous resentment for what they have allowed to happen to my cat out of their own selfish embarrassment or denial about how severe his condition has become. How can I believe they are good people when they seem so resolutely determined to let him suffer, acting as if the stress of letting him suffer is the reason they cannot secure him proper care? This is not my proudest moment, but this breakdown has been building for years. Years of me pleading with them to consider his health, years of me offering solutions and assistance, and years of watching my cat's condition decline while feeling powerless to intervene. And now they dare to ask me to be understanding of them, to forgive their actions? Absolutely not. I cannot endorse their behavior and my anger toward them is intense. I have had some significant fallouts with my parents previously, yet I genuinely cannot see a way to move past this and continue to love them if they knowingly allow my cat's health to continue deteriorating. If he dies, I honestly do not know how I will cope. I understand the sentiment behind the character Doom Slayer avenging the death of his pet rabbit. I can empathize with that. I have never felt such overwhelming fury. This matter transcends my personal conflict with my parents. My innocent cat unable to advocate for himself is the collateral damage. How am I supposed to contend with that? What actions should I take? I have 1 month remaining before I must vacate my dormitory. I do not believe I can return home. I doubt I could manage that and survive the experience. I wish to find a place of my own and take Panda to secure him the care he needs, although I realize he would likely detest being moved from his familiar environment. Additionally, I wonder if they would allow me to take him since he no longer seems to be solely my cat. Moreover, there is the financial issue, which is why I initially intended to move in with them so I could gain stability while paying significantly lower rent. I am simply at a loss and I had to pull over during my drive home last night because I was hyperventilating to the point of near faintness. I did not attend classes today despite falling behind because I cannot muster the energy. I am overwhelmed, and at this point, I cannot determine if I am indeed blowing this situation out of proportion. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. TLDR, I have been imploring my parents to place my obese childhood cat who lives with them on a diet for years, but they have refused. Now he is experiencing difficulties walking and his health is declining. They have been dishonest with me regarding the care they have provided him, and I am expected to move back in with them after graduation. But I do not think I can manage that anymore because I no longer trust them. Story 2. Lost in emotional limbo. My ex-girlfriend turns best friend says she's moving on. I still hold you dearly to my heart, but tags a new guy with why you so obsessed with me. Now, as I navigate heartbreak and hope, can we ever find our way back? Hey everyone's. I have been struggling for the past few days due to an emotional disconnect with someone who was not only my girlfriend for 2 years, but also my closest friend. We have known each other for 3 years in total. If you are willing to listen, I would truly appreciate any thoughts or advice, just honesty, not merely what I want to hear. We met through an online game. I was 19 and she was 18 at the time in April 2020. I know what you are thinking, long-distance relationships do not last. However, ours lasted for 2 years and I think that is quite impressive. We hit it off, began talking on Discord, and realized we had a lot in common both in community college, similar movie tastes, and even both being the oldest siblings. Neither of us rushed into anything. We spent months just getting to know each other, establishing a strong friendship first. It was not a whirlwind romance. We talked nearly every day, shared personal stories, and gradually became more significant to each other. Initially, I was pessimistic about relationships due to past experiences, but she was different. Ultimately, after months of late-night conversations and deep discussions, we both confessed our feelings and began dating. She was incredibly kind, empathetic, and a true hopeless romantic. She believed deeply in love and, despite the distance, remained optimistic about us. She told me I treated her better than anyone in her previous relationships. Over time, she opened up about the trauma she endured being sexually assaulted by her grandfather, with her father refusing to believe her. When she finally reported him, I was there for her, helping her stay calm and reminding her of her bravery. Our relationship was filled with small, meaningful moments, late-night calls, watching movies, studying together. We even met twice. The first time, I sneaked away from my family when we were on a Disneyland trip to downtown Disneyland, where I met her as she Ubered over. We met and built Lego figures of ourselves to keep. The second meeting was for our 1-year anniversary when we rented an Airbnb near a college she was considering. Her parents never knew about me because they wanted her focused on school, but we made it work. I picked her up from the airport and we spent 3 wonderful days together. She did not drive, so I took care of everything, and when she fell asleep in the car, it melted my heart. She trusted me completely. Saying goodbye was difficult, but we still talked every day. Over time, however, the distance began to take its toll and I started losing feelings, not because of her but because of the situation. She sensed it, but she remained hopeful. She wanted me to visit her in college, believing we could work through it. I wanted to, but financially, I just could not make the trip. We had come close to breaking up twice before due to miscommunication, but we always managed to resolve our issues. However, that was before I lost feelings. It was only due to misunderstanding. Eventually, she confronted me about how I felt. Admitting I had lost some of my feelings hurt both of us, but we remained close friends. I was still incredibly proud of her when she got into the University of California, Los Angeles. We often talked, although less frequently as she got busier with school. Then things took a turn. One night she called me while drunk, crying and laughing, introducing me to her friends as her ex before abruptly hanging up. The next day she was embarrassed, but I reassured her it was fine. Not long after, she was sexually assaulted again, this time by someone she thought she could trust. She did not tell me right away, but I sensed something was wrong. When she finally opened up, I was devastated for her. I told her she needed to report him and seek help, though I understood that was easier said than done. Eventually, she was moved to a different dorm to avoid him. Our messages became less frequent, but I still checked in every day. Then in February, she suddenly stopped responding. Days turned into weeks. I reminisced about her and even started feeling something again. However, I did not express that to her. I wanted to remain on standby and assumed she was just busy, knowing she could reach out if she needed anything. Apparently, that was not the case. When she finally reached out, something felt off. She told me she was in therapy and taking medication, and when I expressed that I was still there for her, she simply responded, "Oh, thanks, but I am getting the help I need, so do not worry." That stung. It felt as though she was distancing herself. Then I saw an Instagram post where she tagged a guy along with the song, "Why You So Obsessed With Me?" That hit me hard. When I asked her about it, she admitted she was talking to someone, casually exploring where it might lead. She kept insisting she still held me dearly in her heart and wanted me to remain her friend. Just because she was talking to him did not mean we had to end our friendship. However, she also mentioned that things would be different. Our dynamic would not be the same, and boundaries would need to be established. I was hurting. I love her, but I also want her to be happy. I know some people might ask why I would fall for her again if the reason I lost feelings in the first place was the distance. But she is such a sweetheart. She truly is. I know it is cliché, but she is genuinely unlike any girl I have been with. Ironically, out of all my relationships, she was by far the most understanding person who shared my beliefs about constant communication and emotional intimacy. She always reminded me that I was the first guy in her life who had ever respected her and actually listened. I told her I wanted to agree that I wanted to be her friend, but I felt conflicted. I needed time to figure things out. She kept assuring me she was there for me and that when I was ready, she would be there. I told her I would be around and that I would never forget her. I thanked her for listening to me and for being honest. That day, we just hearted each other's messages. That night, I went to bed, but sleep did not come easily. My heart raced, and my mind spun replaying everything over and over again. Then at 3 a.m., I woke up to long messages from her. She told me that our earlier conversation had made her stomach feel terrible and that she could not shake the weight of it. She said I was her closest friend and that no one, no person, no situation could ever change that. She apologized for messaging me even though I had asked for space, but she could not keep it to herself. Then she mentioned April 5th. The day we met was approaching, which was hard to read because she was right about that. I replied, telling her she was the sweetest and smartest person I knew, among many other wonderful things. I told her how she had entered my life and positively impacted it. I assured her that regardless of circumstances, I carried the certainty that she would always be close to my heart. I admitted that not having that emotional intimacy would be remembered and missed, expressing that it had not been easy for me to even pick up my phone and text her. However, I told her that if I knew she was happy and being loved, then I could accept that even though it hurt. She replied saying she did not want to continue without me being her friend. I told her she would never lose me and that my support for her was still present in my heart. I just had so many conflicting thoughts, but I would never easily disregard her. I expressed hope that when I attend the college I want to, which is near hers, we could spend time together and strengthen our friendship. She told me she still wanted to show me around her home city of Los Angeles. This was something we had discussed before all of this. She assured me she understood I was going through a lot and that I was not alone. She said she was always there for me. I reciprocated by reminding her I was also there for her. I acknowledged that while I was not a licensed therapist, I knew her just as she knew me. She then reiterated how I was her closest friend and that not being able to text me about everything hurt. She admitted she had left me on read but reassured me that I was never out of her thoughts. She simply got busy and forgot. That felt odd given our closeness, but I chose to believe she was not lying. She never lies to me. She then asked why things could not return to how they were. That puzzled me because she had previously stated things would be different. She inquired why she could not help me through this. The thing is, if I told her I had feelings for her again, it would complicate everything. I could not do that to her. The truth is, if I had revealed to her that I had developed feelings again, it would have complicated our situation and I could not do that. So I simply told her that, as she knows I am an overthinker at heart. She acknowledged this, hence why she could not pretend nothing had changed. She knew me too well for that. Still, I sought clarification on her boundaries. She emphasized that things would be different due to her new responsibilities. That was painful to read. However, I appreciated that she had gone out of her way to talk to me because she cared. I expressed my understanding and advised her to pursue what she needed to do. I respected her and knew I could not force anything. She then inquired if there was anything she should or should not do with me. I told her no, that she should do what felt right. After that, she texted, "I have missed you a lot, dummy." She always liked to call me that and assigned me many nicknames. It touched me, yet I knew that as happy as I was to hear from her, my feelings would only bring me pain since she was talking to someone else. She apologized again for not reaching out and for leaving me on read. I told her not to apologize, but she insisted. At that moment, I was trying to restrain my emotions as much as I could and remain kind to her, but inside I was struggling. She expressed that she wanted me to be happy. I said I was working on it. Then she suggested we watch something together later. We had introduced each other to numerous movies and shows. My greatest introduction for her was Star Wars. She used to think Star Wars was too complex and lengthy and had no interest in it, but oh, she loved it after I showed it to her chronologically. Yes, I made sure she got the full experience. But the thing is, she kept saying things would be different, yet she suggested watching something together again. After that, we both went to bed and promised to talk tomorrow. I had hiked that day to clear my head because I felt the worst pain approaching. The next day, our texting resumed as it had the night before. I was glad to hear from her, but my feelings still gnawed at me. She shared her plans for later that day, and I encouraged her to enjoy her day and stay safe. She left me on read. Hours later, I noticed a note from her on Instagram. It was a song, "We Can't Be Friends" by Ariana Grande. That hit me hard. It was clearly directed toward me. I was in distress both mentally and emotionally. My chest ached, my throat felt constricted, I was unsure how to proceed. And I was left on read. I allowed it to remain that way the entire day, suffering mentally and emotionally. My chest hurt and my throat felt tight. I did not know what to do. I spoke to someone close to me about everything, and they suggested she might be going through a rebound because of her last relationship and did not know how to approach things with me. They also mentioned that her leaving that note was inconsiderate since she could have been upfront with me. But perhaps she did not want to hurt me, although I would ultimately be hurt regardless. I then shifted my mindset in desperation and sent her a text expressing my desire to be her friend and tour Los Angeles with her, emphasizing that I did not want to lose her. I was left undelivered. I suspected she had turned off her read receipts too. She was still following me on Instagram and every other social media platform where I had her added. She also still had her location enabled. She made that note but is keeping me around. I was overthinking that she would eventually do it. I repeatedly checked her Instagram page. She left that note up all day. The following day, a different song appeared, just some love song, and I was certain it was directed toward him. I was in so much pain. As the days went by, she never replied to me. However, she viewed my stories on Instagram. I had not eaten for 2 days and was becoming sleep-deprived but could not even sleep. I would wake up every morning at 3 a.m. and struggle to fall back asleep. I compulsively checked my phone to see if I was still in her good graces. I pondered whether I should send another message. I thought about texting her that it was okay to let me go and move on, that I would miss her. Eventually, I sent that message. Still no response. I informed her that she did not owe me one in the message. The next day, yet again, another song was posted on her notes. It was titled "Someone New." Now, I felt a surge of anger. I felt I had not been treated fairly in this situation. I ended up unfollowing her on everything because looking at her hurt far too much. I began to think maybe she had not unfollowed me because she did not care enough to do so or because she was experiencing a connection issue with me. This was immensely painful. I loved her so deeply. I was there for her at every turn. Now this guy had the potential to take the place I once held in her life. I did not even know if it was healthy for her to be with this guy, right? I mean, this is all new. I suspect she met this individual on a dating app as well, since she left me on read when I checked on her. He attends a college near hers, and I noticed she had liked an ad for a dating app shortly afterward. So I have been doing quite poorly. I keep holding on to hope at the back of my mind that we will find each other again and fall for one another again. But that is just hope. I cannot predict the future. I realize that unfollowing her essentially places us in a situation where we will not communicate anymore. I still have her number though. I also wanted to ask all of you, if I give it a long time and move to college, would it be acceptable to reach out to her? Not with the immediate intention of getting back together, but just to see each other and spend time together. I will also need to find out if she is still with this guy or talking to anyone else. I do not believe she hates me. I do not think I did anything wrong in all of this. I just love her. I still have our keepsakes. Story 3. My boyfriend of 3 years told me, "I don't love you anymore," just hours after proclaiming his love. He ghosted me for his 33-year-old manager, leaving me crumbling in Europe. How could he just end a 3-year relationship for someone he loathed? Can I ever move on? My boyfriend of 3 years emotionally betrayed me with his 33-year-old manager while I was studying abroad. I feel deeply betrayed and I need advice on how to move forward. 5 months ago, I, a 23-year-old female, decided to pursue my studies overseas through a student exchange program in Europe, which meant I had to enter a long-distance relationship with my partner, a 25-year-old male, since we lived in Asia at that time. He was quite upset, telling me that long-distance relationships would never work, and when I asked why, he explained that he had physical needs, which I tried my best to understand. Nevertheless, we came to an agreement that we would try to make it work. He wrote me letters and gave me a gift shirt that said "I love my boyfriend" before I left for my studies. 2 months in, I was not adjusting as well as I had hoped. I started feeling homesick and struggled to make friends. At one point, I felt really ostracized by my classmates, so I called him to express my feelings. He answered the phone and I was crying, but all he said was that he was busy. I became very upset because he would have comforted me in the past and would have dropped everything to make me feel better. We ended up having a huge argument, but after I expressed my feelings, we sort of resolved the issue, and he promised to communicate with me more effectively. Fast forward to a week later. He informed me that he saw cheap flights to Europe and was considering visiting me, which made me ecstatic because I had always wanted him to come and believed this visit would help mend our relationship. However, he suddenly grew hesitant to visit, leading to another argument. In the end, he did book the flight tickets. I thought everything was fine since he continued to send me sweet and kind messages, and I genuinely believed our relationship was going well. However, on the day before he was supposed to come, he became very angry over something minor. He abruptly turned his back on me, called me disgusting, stated that he did not want me in his life anymore, and declared that he no longer loved me nor liked me as a person. This was a shock to me, especially since just an hour prior, we expressed our love for each other. Since this was not the first time he had turned his back on me, I thought I should calm the situation down by apologizing, explaining that it was not what it seemed. I called him multiple times, but he did not answer, and he informed me that he wanted to end our relationship and would not be coming anymore. He canceled the hotel bookings and essentially went missing in action, leaving me with no way to communicate with him at all. He also blocked my calls on FaceTime and deleted my contact information. I felt confused, alone, and I completely crumbled. The next day I had an exam and it was awful going through it all. I decided to give him some time since he usually says things he does not mean. I thought he would eventually reach out to explain his behavior, as his last message was quite brief. He told me that he felt our relationship was not working and just wanted to end things with me. I considered flying back to my home country to fix things, but he told me he would resent me even further if I did that. When I asked him if there was someone else involved, he told me not to discuss him further, leaving me abandoned as he did not respond to my numerous messages asking if we could talk things out. Throughout my time in Europe, I blamed myself for the deterioration of our relationship. Coping with the sudden loss was incredibly challenging, and I reflected on my behavior, trying to understand what I had done wrong for him to change so drastically. After 2 months, I finally returned to our home country and called him, asking if we could meet to talk. He told me he had expressed everything he needed to in the final message and that there was nothing left to discuss. He also mentioned that he had moved on, which shocked me. I soon discovered that he had started dating his manager shortly after he ghosted me, and everything clicked into place. He had been avoiding me out of guilt. To provide some context, he had always told me that he did not consider the manager a friend but rather a superior. I questioned why he was going out to casinos with her. She paid for his entry fees, attending karaoke nights and drinking late at night with her and her brother. She also gave him a perfume for his birthday, which I found strange. She frequently bought him gifts and even joined us at a Coldplay concert along with her brother. My suspicions about her grew, and when I asked him if she had any ulterior motives, he told me not to worry about it too much, claiming he found her unattractive due to their 7-year age difference. He stated that she was in a long-term relationship with another woman, and after that ended, pursued another male colleague at the company. He expressed disgust over this. All of this felt like an ultimate betrayal to me. She was a smoker, which he had never liked, and he was not someone who consumed alcohol regularly. I am still in shock and pain, as I had suspected something was off with this manager for quite some time. Yet I never expected my boyfriend of 3 years to start dating her immediately after ending our relationship via text. I felt as though my entire world collapsed, and I have been nauseous ever since. I cried profusely, struggled to eat even one meal a day, and experienced multiple panic attacks after finding out about this. How could they be so callous? How could he end a 3-year relationship for a woman who is 7 years older? She represented everything he abhorred. When I went to pick up my belongings from his place, I discovered a bottle of alcohol in his room, which was completely unlike him. Even when I confronted him about the woman he was seeing, he denied it, claiming he did not owe me any explanations and that there was no timeline for when he should move on. He also sent me hurtful messages and spoke down to me. He mentioned having mentally checked out of the relationship a long time ago, which surprised me, given that he constantly reminded me of his love and desire to work things out. We are each other's first loves, but after witnessing how he handled the situation, I doubt he ever truly loved me. He has not apologized for any of his actions and is now shamelessly dating his manager while I grieve the loss of both the relationship and my youth. This only happened a few days ago. I did so much for him throughout our relationship, and even when he betrayed me, I continued to fulfill my promise of sending him a postcard from every city I visited in Europe. I reached out to him, trying to work things out as we had promised each other that we would always return to one another. I hope he regrets his actions one day. We had plans for our future together as I was set to graduate this year. I stood by him during his national military service and through difficult job searches. I was always there for him. It is disheartening to see that he feels no remorse for how he treated me. I never imagined that the long-distance relationship would destroy something we had cherished for 3 years. In the weeks leading up to my departure to Europe, we spent every day together. I genuinely believed he was the one and had liked him for 7 years throughout my youth. To help myself move forward, I sent him a final long message expressing my desire for him to be my endgame, hoping he would not jeopardize everything he worked hard for over a moment of lust. I do not think I ever want to see him again, as I have not seen him since I left for Europe. Do you think he will ever regret losing this relationship? Is this a rebound? I cannot comprehend how he managed to hang out and converse with her daily when we were together, only to end things when we entered a long-distance relationship and then immediately become intimate with her. It is horrifying. I apologize for the lengthy post. My mind is a mess.